Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. A very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. And welcome to Tuesday's edition of the dceu Daily. If you're feeling charitable, please smash the subscribe button and the like button and come over on my Twitter and follow me at Movies TV Mad. Quite a few articles to read for you today. So grab the popcorn, relax, and let's go. And anyone watching this live on a premiere, you are very, very welcome. And thank you for making the effort. Black Adam filming start date pushed back to late summer. Black Adam star Dwayne Johnson says start of the film's production will be delayed, though Johnson's been developing the DC Comics movie since 2008. It only recently began to take major steps forward. Last year, Black Adam received a December 2021 release date, and the word was principal photography would commence this summer. However, like most of Hollywood these days, the Black Adam team has to reevaluate the project's schedule amidst the coronavirus pandemic. As most people know, the spread of the COVID-19 has forced studios to shift release dates and delay ongoing production as they wait for it to be safe to return to normal business operations. The health crisis is also impacting movies and TV shows that hadn't started rolling the cameras just yet. It was only a few weeks ago Johnson expressed worry filming on Black Adam could get pushed back, and now it appears that's exactly what's happened. During an Instagram live video, Johnson gave an update on Black Adam, explaining that while they're still hoping to begin work this year, it'll likely be a little later than initially planned. Johnson: we still plan on shooting probably at the end of the summer now, probably pushed into the end of August or September. That is a project I hold near and dear to my heart, and so I can't wait to get started. Reports from late March indicated delayed productions could resume in mid-May at the earliest, but at the rate things are going right now, that window seems to be very optimistic. The hiatus could last well into the summer, which would push Black Adam's original start date of July in jeopardy. So it makes sense to hold off production until August or September. That appears to be when most of the industry is banking on getting things up and running again. Warner Bros. Moved Wonder Woman 84 back to August, and Paramount rescheduled A Quiet Place 2 for this September. Of course, given the fluidity of the situation, there's no guarantee it will be safe to film project by then. But on paper, it reads as a more attainable target date than July. It'll be interesting to see how everything progresses over the next few months, as that will dictate when Black Adam and other movies in limbo can start. And the general feeling is projects slated for release in 2021 will need to be delayed due to the pandemic, but that probably doesn't apply to Black Adam just yet. As stated above, the movie isn't supposed to come out until next December, meaning there's plenty of time between now and its scheduled premiere. Films like The Suicide Squad remain on track for the time being, so hopefully Black Adam isn't affected too much and can still debut next holiday season. If not, fans will just have to wait a little longer to see Johnson headline the comic book adaptation. Yeah, not really a big deal. I've noticed a lot of bloggers and a lot of YouTubers, breaking news, Black Adam delayed. It's really funny how journalism has changed now. All they do now is go on people's social media platform feed, and then they basically look at that. Basically what I'm doing, but I'm not a journalist. I'm an amateur YouTuber that barely gets 50 views. Do you know what I mean? There is a difference. I do get my information from Screen Rant, Heroic Hollywood and places like that, and that's perfectly fine. I give them credit. And that's quite right too. They do the spade work. They write it down and they post the article. And they deserve people to go over to their sites. And I notice a lot of YouTubers don't read out the articles like I do. They're trying to help them out. I suppose maybe they're making money from those sites. I don't know. I'm not making money from anyone, and I'm going to read the articles to you, my subscribers. That's who I owe a debt to. That's who I'm providing a service for. So basically, don't worry about it. It's probably going to hit its release date. It's only kind of, a couple of months of a delay. So really nothing to worry about. Black Adam sounds like a really, really exciting project. We're going to get the Justice Society of America, maybe a Justice Society of America Superman as well. Dr. Fate, so many awesome characters we've never seen in live action before. I mean, we've seen Dr. Fate in Smallville, but this is going to be a whole different kettle of fish, and I just can't wait to see it. Now, this is an interesting little article from Screen Rant again, written by Sandy Schaffer. Batman v Superman. Jesse Eisenberg didn't finish reading script before joining. Before you lose it, read it. It's a pretty interesting reason. Jesse Eisenberg says the Batman v Superman script was so engaging, he didn't have time to finish reading it before he joined the film. 4 years after its release, director Zack Snyder's Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice remains arguably the most polarizing superhero movie in recent memory. On top of being one of the most divisive films of the last decade in general, that goes double for its portrayal of the Man of Steel's arch nemesis and criminal mastermind Lex Luthor, as played by Eisenberg. In the Batman v Superman script, which David Goyer and Chris Terrio share credit for, Lex is portrayed as an eccentric CEO who's a bit like Eisenberg's Mark Zuckerberg from The Social Network. If the Facebook co-creator had extreme daddy issues due to his abusive father and a figure like Superman to project his insecurities onto, the character is obsessed with the Man of Steel, to put it mildly, and spends much of the movie rambling about figures from ancient mythology, religion, and the concept of God whenever he's forced to justify his hatred for the superhero. During a recent interview with Kabini, Eisenberg described the Batman v Superman script as intellectually probing. It is. It absolutely is. Saying he had to take his time reading it because it was so dense. There were references to things I'd never heard of. I was shocked because I'd never seen a superhero movie because I live in a bubble or whatever. And so I thought I was just going to be people flying around for 100 pages. I just thought it was going to be people flying around for 100 pages. For security reasons, however, he was only granted a limited amount of time to read the screenplay before it was deleted from his computer and was unable to complete it in time. In spite of this, the actor was so impressed by what he did read, he signed on anyway. Opinions vary greatly about the film's execution, but nobody's ever reasonably denied Batman v Superman has a lot on its mind. In addition to Lex's rantings, the movie includes cameos by people like Anderson Cooper and Neil deGrasse Tyson, which is a great cameo. I think his bit's the best out of all the cameos. Playing themselves as they engage in fictional debates about Superman and what his existence implies about our understanding of life and the universe. Whether you find those elements pretentious or compelling in the actual movie, they're not exactly something you can merely spread and read through on the printed page and fully appreciate. Indeed, Eisenberg told Caboni that Batman v Superman script was one of the most dense scripts I've read intellectually, admitting he has no idea how much of it made the final cut of the film. To clarify that, Eisenberg, like a number of actors, tries to avoid watching his movies when he can, and hasn't seen Batman v Superman. Although he's since cameoed as Lex in Justice League's credit scene, it's believed Eisenberg is done playing the character in the DCEU. The franchise has moved in a different direction since that film disappointed critically and commercially in 2017, and Snyder's original 5-movie DCEU vision being abandoned, and his now infamous original cut of Justice League being largely overhauled by Joss Whedon's rewrites and reshoots. Instead, the DC Cinematic Universe is now focusing on one-off films. That's not exactly true. Loosely connected by a shared continuity and staying away from the crossovers like Batman v Superman. Did Shazam stay away from Batman v Superman? I saw a lot of Easter eggs from that film in Shazam. Maybe go back and do some studying. Still, as much as his performance tends to inspire love-hate reactions, Eisenberg's already succeeded in putting his stamp on Superman's greatest rival. That's too right. Eisenberg wasn't my choice. He wasn't who I would have ever cast. I definitely would have gone back to Michael Rosenbaum, who did a great job on Smallville. But at the end of the day, it was a great performance and it was a great creative conceit by the writers. It's a great role, it's a great performance, and Jesse is absolutely right. It's one of the most intellectually compelling scripts you will ever read. Absolutely fantastic. And by the way, Jesse is quite happy to reprise his role as Lex, because that doesn't say that there. At this moment in time, they're going in a different direction, but with the support and the battling that us within the Release the Snyder Cut community are doing, Zack Snyder's Justice League, anything is possible right now. This is actually an unrelated DCEU article, but it's DC, And I am going to be expanding onto DC Comics and other DC properties as well, because I think it's important to expand the channel and to expand the viewership. But this is another one, great one from Screen Rant, and this one's from Andrew Craig. Justice Society's Wonder Woman was secretly her right. That's what the title says. Everyone who knows Wonder Woman knows the story of Diana Prince of the Amazons, but if fans can believe it, the heroine's history with both the Justice League and the Justice Society decades earlier isn't exactly due to her age, but her mother taking up the role. I didn't actually know this. I thought it was Diana, but there you go. You learn something new every day. Yes, Queen Hippolyta once piloted the invisible plane herself, time-travelled and served as a member of the Justice Society of America in the role of Wonder Woman. Continuity sticklers may complain about how many timelines and universes this confuses. It doesn't actually, but the story runs right into the origins and backstories that make these characters so rich in the first place. One day, the Wonder Woman DC timeline will all make sense. Until then, these heroes should feel free to jump all over it. Look, there's a multiverse. There's reboots in the comics. It's absolutely fine. Actually, I'd love to see Hippolyta as Wonder Woman in the distant past or time traveling. For me, in a film, that would be awesome. Because at the end of the day, the actor who plays Hippolyta in the DCEU is brilliant, is badass, and is capable of actually doing this. Connie Nielsen is amazing. Unless fans were reading Wonder Woman comics during the late 1990s, they may not know about Diana's mortal death at the hands of a demon king. I didn't know that, no. Long story short, Diana's death falls to ascension into Greek godhood. But as soon as she gained that honour, she was punished for interfering in the world of man. By the orders of Athena and Hera, Diana must surrender her position to her mother in order to punish them both for actions ill-befitting Olympus. And so it went until Wonder Woman 130, written and drawn by John Byrne, when Hippolyta as Wonder Woman first crosses paths with the Justice Society. When her superheroics land her on the news, she catches the eye of a silver-haired Jay Garrick. He's retired now, but can't shake the feeling that he recognises this woman from his early days as the Flash. Jay eventually tracks Hippolyta down, telling her he recalls the day she saved his life, a day she can't recall at all. Even retired, one superhero helps out another, so the two jump in her invisible plane to solve the mystery with time travel. Having travels back to 1942. I don't understand that. Travels back to 1942. Hippolyta and Jay track down young Garrick and manage to rescue him from the Fiddler. Unfortunately, that's where the time stream goes awry. Old Flash and Wonder Woman wind up being confronted and questioned by the Justice Society. As so often happens in Wonder Woman stories, Nazis interrupt, offering Hippolyta and the older Flash to prove they're the good guys. And while Jay returns to the future to relay this story in the first place, Hippolyta decides to stay behind for a total of 8 years, operating as Wonder Woman in DC's Golden Age. Diana's tenure as Wonder Woman resumes shortly after, but this wrinkle in timeline could answer questions about her secret history with the JSA. If Hippolyta was time-travelling as Wonder Woman, it explains why she eventually left the JSA. Once Crisis on Infinite Earths combined the worlds. Her bridge between the Golden and Silver Age superhero teams made no sense at all. This one odd Wonder Woman story solves that problem by revealing it was her mother instead. Who knew? Well, not me, because I love DC. I love it, but I don't know the comics so well. I know the live-action universe better, so it's good for me. It's good for us to learn this stuff. This is awesome. But this could spill into the DCEU. How do we know there's not plans for Connie Nielsen to actually do this? In the Black Adam movie, we know the JSA are coming. That's why I leaked months and months ago that we would get a different JSA Superman in Black Adam. The potential for this is endless. Comment down below. Let me know. Would you like to see Connie Nielsen play a version of Wonder Woman as Hippolyta? Because I tell you what, I absolutely would. No, it doesn't delete what Gal's done, and then soon after she takes back the mantle. But this, my friends, would be an awesome way to integrate Connie and give Hippolyta more screen time. because I think she's one of the standouts of the first Wonder Woman movie. And what I saw in the 90-minute test screening of Wonder Woman 84, she was amazing again. I'm enjoying all these articles, everyone. I really am. And here's another one by Craig Levi. How Huntress can return in the DCEU without Birds of Prey. Now, this is a great little article. I haven't read it all properly, but this is about Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and whatever we think of Birds of Prey, she was brilliant. I still think they mugged her off. They mugged all the actors off in this film. It was all about kind of ultra-left politics, and it wasn't about the characters. They didn't flesh out these characters, and that's disappointing. And that's down to Margot Robbie and Cathy Yan, but mainly Margot. Margot was the one who wanted to do this way. So this is a shame, and this is why I would give the actors who played the Birds of Prey another chance, but give them the iconic costumes, change it, flesh them out. I would definitely be up for this. So let's see what Craig has to say. If Birds of Prey 2 doesn't happen, and Birds of Prey 2 could happen, but they could just change it again. They could embrace the comic book look and feel with these actors in it. There's no problem with that. The actors in the film did really well. The reason the film didn't do so well was because of Cathy Yan and Margot Robbie and the way they wanted to go at this. The actual artists did a great job. Mary Elizabeth Winstead's Huntress can still make a return to the DCEU. Agreed. Effectively, a Harley Quinn solo movie, Birds of Prey, released to widespread positive reviews, with critics hailing Cathy Yan's DC movie as one of the best to come from the franchise in recent years. No, it's not. It's okay, it's solid, but it's certainly not what the critics said. But we all know this is political. They are political, and that's the problem. Unfortunately, this wasn't reflected by Birds of Prey's disappointing box office, and the film's commercial failure means the sequel Warner Brothers were almost certainly planning is now far from guaranteed. No, I think it is guaranteed, but I think Yan is out and Margot Robbie will not have no say-so on what happens in this next Girl Gang movie, and I think that's important. You never know. James Gunn could actually be in charge of all the Suicide Squad-y kind of side of the DCEU, which I would absolutely love. Although the focus of Birds of Prey very much revolves upon the shoulders of one Harley Quinn, Margot Robbie's character is ably supported by the titular cast of female DC characters, and by far the strongest of these, both literally and in characterization, is Mary Elizabeth Winstead's Helena Bertinelli, otherwise known as Dramatic Paul's Huntress. Birds of Prey gives a brief overview of the Huntress origin story, and Bertinelli's sponsored arse-kickings are in plentifully supply as the Birds of Prey take on Ewan McGregor's Black Mask. We did see her origin, but we didn't really get to see how that affected her, seeing her family, gunned down like that. It wasn't fleshed out properly. There was no time. It was just go, 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 go. This is Margot's movie. And Margot has to take blame for that. She wanted this to be about Harley Quinn because she thought Harley Quinn was so popular. But the Birds of Prey characters are popular too. They let the character down. They let all these characters down. To be honest with you, I don't even know what the idea of this film was, apart from big commentary against men and feminist commentary. Apart from that, it didn't really serve any entertainment narrative or any development or fleshing out of these characters. Harley Quinn's DCEU future is already in place, but while all of her fellow birds are worthy of featuring again in the DCEU, agreed. It's Winstead's Huntress who would represent the biggest loss of birth if Birds of Prey was never followed up on. Assuming a direct sequel doesn't happen, here's how Helena Bertinelli can make a DCEU return. Most obvious way to keep Winstead's Huntress relevant in the DCEU is to develop her own solo movie. Prior to Birds of Prey's release, it was reported that Warner Brothers were in the process of developing solo movies for members of the team, not named Harley, but those rumours have gone predictably quiet after Birds of Prey failed to fly at the box office. Certainly, a Rennie Montoya solo movie would be optimistic as things stand, but a Huntress film still has the potential to succeed. The project's smaller scope would command a lower budget compared to Birds of Prey, but instead, where am I? I've lost it. Where am I? But compared to Birds of Prey. But Winstead is a big enough star and talented enough actress to front a major superhero movie alone. Huntress' brand of vigilantism, like Batman but with less moral qualms, is refreshingly attractive in DC movies, and a standalone Huntress release would have more space to develop the intriguing personality fans glimpsed in Birds of Prey. Placing a Huntress solo movie in the DCEU could prove tricky, however. Birds of Prey covers the important points of her origin story, and the film ends with Huntress teaming up alongside Montoya and Black Canary. A solo movie would need to be set after Birds of Prey to avoid rerunning her origin, but somehow escape the trap of being a full-on sequel. Fortunately, DC Comic Canon holds on ideal solution. The Cry for Blood arc sees Helena framed for murder, which would provide the perfect excuse to strike out on her own, while also providing an intriguing central story. A Huntress solo movie could explore the theme of Bertinelli's excessive violence compared to other heroes, and could introduce DCEU Barbara Gordon as a supporting character, since she was reportedly being lined up for Birds of Prey 2 anyway. If Warner Brothers are unwilling to entertain the idea of any Birds of Prey spin-offs, there are plenty of other corners of the DCEU Helena Bertinelli could turn up. James Gunn's The Suicide Squad is currently scheduled for 2021. Will feature the return of Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn alongside a mostly new crop of inmates. While the main plot remains under wraps for now, the core concept of villains being coerced into embarking on a kamikaze mission is sure to remain in place, and this gives a natural point of entry for Huntress. The Suicide Squad will already need to account for Cassandra Cain's whereabouts after she became Harley's apprentice at the end of Birds of Prey, and this means other cameos can't be ruled out. When Amanda Waller straps a bomb to Harley's neck and sends her with a bunch of other kooks to deal with an apocalyptic level threat, it's only natural that the various vigilantes of Gotham City would be alerted, even if they were apparently all on vacation during the original Suicide Squad. Harley Quinn and Huntress could have a surprise reunion while going after the same bad guy, one under orders from the government and one in her duties as a Gotham hero. After unexpectedly meeting Harley, and Huntress would no doubt be quick to rekindle the Birds of Prey partnership, allowing Bertinelli to join the Suicide Squad for at least a portion of the movie, perhaps helping her old Birds of Prey buddies out of a bind. Rumours regarding the potential appearance of Robbie continue to swirl around Matt Reeves' The Batman. Although the Boy Wonder's presence is yet to be confirmed, one thing that can be said of The Dark Knight's upcoming cinematic return is that Robert Pattinson will be playing a relatively young Bruce Wayne somewhere near the beginning of his crime-fighting career. While not an outright origin story, Reeves' Batman won't be fully established in Gotham City, and on-set photos have suggested a mid-2000s setting as a result. Bruce is unlikely to have many members of his Bat family in place. They won't be in place, but they are going to be in this film. This is going to have a lot of DC characters in it. I've been told that exclusively. Assuming that Batman is more popular than the Bird Women, which it will be, Reeves' movie is sure to get a sequel set closer to the DCEU's current timeline, and this will be an ideal opportunity to bring in wider members of Batman's vigilante network. Aside from the obvious Robins and Batgirls, Mary Elizabeth Winstead's Huntress would be a more unique supporting character, and her whole ethos will be in keeping with the visual aesthetics that Batman looks to be going for. Judging by the marketing material unveiled so far, at least, Batman and Huntress' vastly different philosophies on violence could be a recurring theme, and Helena could provide a love interest as well as a partner in crime fighting to Pattinson's Batman. DC had originally lined up Chris McKay to direct a live-action movie starring Dick Grayson's Nightwing, but the project has now been indefinitely shelved, and that's because that was Jeff Johns' baby, and now Jeff Johns isn't running things, is he? Supposedly, in order to keep the character available for Batman, any possible sequels, this isn't just a shame for Dick Grayson, a character that has enjoyed a rough time on the big screen, but also Helena Bertinelli, who would have been an ideal partner for a live-action Nightwing. Unlike his fictional mentors, Nightwing doesn't quite have the brand power to hold up a movie without a helping hand. And I don't agree with that at all, actually. And the return of Mary Elizabeth Winstead's Huntress would have benefited both characters, maybe, bringing a recognisable face to the movie and affording the Birds of Prey heroine more screen time. More screen time the Batman would. Nightwing and Huntress have plenty of DC comic history to justify bringing them together on film, with the pair developing a romantic attachment alongside a professional partnership as vigilantes. Both characters have complicated relationships with Bruce Wayne, and in a sense of insecurity about their chosen career, and Huntress' appearance in Birds of Prey would have helped establish Grayson as part of the wider DCEU, something his solo film would need more than. The Batman, which is more than capable of going it alone. Although Nightwing remains inactive for now, Huntress would be a shoo-in for a big role if the project was ever revived. Bloody hell, I tell you what, during this coronavirus, this pandemic, right, COVID-19, I must give credit to Screen Rant. Their articles are long, they're detailed, and very, very passionate and brilliant. So well done. Well done. I'm just going to shout out the writer again, Craig Levi. That was really, really good. There's things, mostly I agree with Craig on what he's saying. I think, listen, I've already said this, but I'll say it again, I'll reiterate this. All these actors in Birds of Prey should come back, should reprise their roles. I think what I would do personally, I would cameo them. Obviously, these people can't just be stuffed in the Suicide Squad. You know, that film's been shot. It's very unlikely they will appeal. But we don't know. The girls could actually cameo in the Suicide Squad. We don't know. And I'm well up for that. And I think what they're saying about Dick Grayson and Nightwing, that would be awesome to see Mary Elizabeth Winstead in that film. As I say, I don't think the actors in Birds of Prey playing the birds were done any favours by Kathy Yan or Margot Robbie. There was no fleshing out. It just was a Margot Robbie film and they were just there. And that's a shame because these are great characters in the graphic novels and the comics and we need to find a place for them. I think they could all be awesome in standalone movies, right? But I think better cameos and more Birds of Prey movies, but by someone who understands the characters, understands the comics, and you really don't need Harley Quinn involved. Harley should be in her own movies. I want to see a Harley and a Joker movie. I want Leto back. Anything's possible. Warner Brothers owe Jared Leto at least a Harley and Joker movie. But a really good article. I really enjoyed reading that with you guys. That was amazing. Yes, it's an extended DCEU Daily today because we're reading all these articles. I don't know how many more I'm going to read, but basically I'm loving doing this and there's the content there. And you probably all haven't had the opportunity to read all this stuff. So why not come here to the DCEU Daily, relax, eat your popcorn or your breakfast or your dinner, you know, cuddle up with your partners and just listen to me badly read these articles. Justice League. Zack Snyder thanks fans for their support of the Snyder Cut. Director Zack Snyder took to social media platform Vero to share his gratitude towards fans who have championed his original incarnation of Justice League. While supporting the Snyder Cut, fans in the movement have also encouraged a positive community by raising money for charitable causes. Originally released in 2017, Justice League was not the movie Zack Snyder set out to make. After butting heads with higher-ups at Warner Brothers over his vision for the film, combined with a family tragedy, have you noticed now they're adding the butting heads bit as well as the family tragedy? Well done. Snyder left the film before it was complete. Joss Whedon was brought on board to write and direct reshoots, which ultimately took Justice League in a vastly different direction from what Snyder had planned. The result was met with a critical derision and an underwhelming box office haul. In the wake of Justice League disappointing among both fans and critics, a movement emerged on the internet calling for the release of the Snyder Cut of the film, which would restore Justice League to Snyder's original intended version. The intervening years has seen an incredible level of support for the release of the Snyder Cut, also called Zack Snyder's Justice League, to differentiate it from the theatrical version. For his part, Snyder has released many behind-the-scenes images and insights on Vero, his social media platform of choice. His latest post isn't a look at a deleted scene or an unused concept from his original 5-movie arc for the heroes of the DC Comics, but instead a tribute to the fans who have supported his vision for Justice League over the years. So let's see what this says. Let me see if I can see it. Can I close up to this? Yes. Awesome. Right, day 10 I'm grateful for the constantly humbling support of this incredible fandom and the work that's been done to raise money for suicide prevention. You guys are my heroes. Brilliant. Thank you, Zach, and you are welcome, my friend. You absolutely are, because you deserve not only for what happened to your daughter and for us to save countless other young lives, but for your awesome vision, not just for the Snyder Cut, not just for the Justice League you intended, but for your whole 5-movie arc and beyond. And we're fighting for that, Zach, and hopefully we can make it happen. The post expresses thanks to the Justice League fandom who have used the release of the Snyder Cut movement to raise money for charitable causes. In particular, he points out the money they've raised for suicide prevention, a topic near and dear to Snyder's heart. His daughter committed suicide in 2017, the contributing factor which caused the director to leave Justice League during its lengthy post-production phase. Today, Zack Snyder's Justice League is more popular than ever, with audience demand for the 9 mythical director's cut an all-time high. At this point, the eventual release of the Snyder Cut seems more like an inevitability than a possibility. The question isn't if, but when perhaps it will be released on home video or HBO Max or even in theatres. Either way, the fans have proven that using their fandom to spread joy and raise money for charity is far more effective than harassing people online. Well, to be fair, we weren't harassing people online. What happened is people were being toxic and negative, and we were defending the film and Zack. That's not us attacking people, but anyway, that's your understanding. I'll read out who wrote this in a minute. Calls of action. If they hope to see positive results from their Justice League campaign. Basically, we've never been toxic. We've been reactionary, and I admit now we've realised, ignore the haters, ignore the trolls. But I think that final bit was a bit sad, to be honest with you. You wrote that. Zach Wanja, I don't know who you are, Zach. Great article, but you went off on a tangent there. Look, it's amazing. What we've done, what you've done, what the whole community has done is amazing. And I'm so proud, so humbled and so proud. I'm pleased for Zach because the way he was treated was disgusting. That monstrosity being labelled as his movie was a kick in the cods, wasn't it? It was despicable. Now, I'm going to check a few more articles out, but I want to give some respect to a person many people don't talk about, and that's Deborah Snyder, Zach's wife. You've heard the term before, the woman behind the man. This is the woman alongside the man. This is the woman who also lost a child to suicide. This is the woman who, without this woman, there would be no Man of Steel or Batman v Superman or, Watchmen. Her support has been amazing through the years. They are a partnership. They are a couple in every way. And she's amazing. She's doing some amazing things on Vero as well. She's doing certain videos for children smiling or something like that. I don't know the details of that. Check her out on Vero. I don't think she's on the other platforms, by the way. I think they feel safer on Vero, and good luck to them for that. But I just think she's an amazing woman. I respect her as much as I respect Zach. And a round of applause for Deb Snyder. You are amazing. If you think Zack Snyder's Justice League has been immortalised, that's nothing compared to the cancelled Justice League by George Miller. Why George Miller's Justice League Mortal didn't get made. This is from Heroic Hollywood, Akhil Diani, on April the 13th. So let's give this a read. So it's 2008, and George Miller's Justice League Mortal is reportedly days away from filming. Sets and props have been built by a legendary Weta workshop, and costumes have been fitted and are ready to be worn. In fact, the DC project has a full cast, and they have been trained extensively to bring audiences their retention of the beloved comic book characters. The script was adored by Warner Brothers executives, and they even fast-tracked the project because of their confidence in Miller's vision. Despite a completed script and a legendary director at the helm, Justice League Mortal was put on indefinite hold. That's what Hollywood jargon for cancelled. Justice League just can't get a break on the big screen. So this is what I think. If we do get justice for Zack, maybe. Is George Miller still alive? How old is he? I don't know, right? But basically, I would love to see that film made as well. It could be kind of a standalone movie, part of the dark, DC Black Label. I don't know, but I'd love to see that movie made one day. Probably not going to happen. I think we should fight our battles carefully. First, let's get Zack's vision on the screen and let's see it and let's delight in it. Later in 2008, Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight opens in theatres to critical and commercial acclaim. The second film in the British director's Batman trilogy becomes the first superhero film to earn $1 billion at the worldwide box office and an acting nod at the Academy Awards for Heath Ledger's Joker. For a comic book movie fan, let alone any Batman fan, the future of DC on film seems wide open and brimming with possibilities. The Dark Knight's adherence to being a character-driven, realistic film that grounds its character is second to none and is responsible for spawning numerous films including DC's very own solo-driven Man of Steel and Green Lantern. It's easy to see the projects that The Dark Knight helped spawn as they've carved their own corner in the pantheon of pop culture. But what of the project that couldn't survive because of the immense success of the character-focused film? Well, ahead of its time in both scope and narrative, George Miller's Justice League Mortal was set to hit theatres in 2009 and change the superhero film genre by not only foregoing an origin story but also having a huge slew of characters in their costumes for almost an entire film. The film would have also served as the cinematic debut for numerous DC characters including The Flash, Wonder Woman, Martian Manhunter, Green Lantern and Aquaman. If The Dark Knight was a bastion for grounded solo superhero films, then Justice League Mortal would have paved the way for more grand explosive projects that focused on an ever-expanding team, something that Marvel would later capitalise on and seemingly perfect with the Avengers. Mortal was directly influenced by some of the Justice League's most celebrated stories, namely JLA Tower of Babel and the OMAC Project. The film opens on a Solomon funeral for a fallen hero with the mystery of the deceased hero hanging in the air. Mortal jumps back 2 days before, showing all the members of the League as well established and beloved by the masses. In fact, the crime rate in Batman's native Gotham City is at an all-time low, and Wonder Woman is a UN ambassador who promotes peace on live telecast. Barry Allen, aka The Flash, is actually the POV character of the film and is always exuding excitement over being surrounded by so many heroes. Barry and Iris West are together and Wally West is also seen in the film. Wow. Having a positive relationship with his uncle, things seem to be going well for the world until Martian Manhunter is attacked, being exposed to oxygen, which causes him to burst into flames. His one weakness, one by one, each member of the team gets attacked by mysterious technology that capitalizes on their weakness. The League kicks into detective mode and discovers that Maxwell Lord is behind the attack on the team, which he was able to do thanks to his partner in crime, Talia al Ghul. When Talia and Bruce Wayne were seeing each other, the villainess managed to get her hands on Batman's files regarding his respective teammates. Of course, the team is upset at Batman for compiling the information, but they put their differences aside to bring Lord to justice. The reasoning behind Lord's brigade on the League is due to the fact that he was in the OMAC project as a child and the years of pain left him with weak physical abilities. Now the villain has his own OMAC droids and that contain people inside, which he sends upon the team. From here, the film gets into the action-packed territory that shows just how capable the League is. Lord manages to use his psychic abilities to control Superman, and we see him fighting the League. Wonder Woman leads the fight against the Man of Steel, and eventually they get the Son of Krypton back to his senses. Very similar to what we got in our Justice League, right? Once everyone is saved, the typical last result from Lord is seen when he shares that there's a doomsday device within him that would kill him and everyone else. The Flash then gets his moment to shine as he runs so fast that he merges with the Speed Force, sending him and Maxwell Lord into the void. We then cut back to the funeral where it becomes evident that the world is mourning Barry Allen. However, the team isn't without a Flash as his nephew Wally West takes on the Speedster's mantle. See how clever that was to have both Flashes there, so when you kill the other one off, you've got the younger one. Very clever. What was once going to be our first introduction to Justice League on the silver screen, as well as the first superhero team-up movie, has been reduced to nothing but myth. A what if? In what is now the world's biggest genre, Mortal has achieved such a legendary status that even a documentary is being made on its production. Yes, I forgot to mention that there is a documentary, and I can't wait for us to discuss it, because it is a mythical film. It would have been amazing. I've got a lot to say about this and that era of DC film. One can attribute Justice League Mortal's cancellation to its gargantuan budget, which ballooned to $300 million, making the most expensive film at the time. One aspect that Warner Bros. Was certainly concerned about was having two rival Batman share the big screen. I'm going to talk about that passionately in a moment. Though that worry didn't come into fruition until The Dark Knight became an unprecedented success. Justice League Mortal began as the brainchild of Michelle and Kieran Mulroney, with their script being uber traditional in how it approached its characters, which translated later into how the League's costumes were designed. The roster character was modelled after the Justice League animated series, but Hawkgirl didn't make the cut. With the script deemed a unique winner by Warner Bros., the studio began to find a suitable director for Justice League Mortal. In 2007, the project was initially offered to Jason Reitman, who wanted to stick to his indie roots, passed on the offer. This led to Mad Max director George Miller. He did an awesome, didn't he? He did an awesome reboot for Mad Max, George Miller. So he is still alive. He's pretty old. We could still get him to do this. Amazing. What idiots. George Miller taking on duty of bringing the Justice League to the big screen for a budget of $200 million in September of the same year. Miller is no stranger to taking on risky projects and turning them into surefire critical and commercial successes. His keen eye for large sprawling aesthetics and fascinating visual language has made him one of the most interesting directors working in the industry, absolutely. So one can only imagine the rich celluloid tapestry he could have weaved with Mortal. Within just a few short months, Justice League Mortal went from being a spec script to having a world-class director ready to assemble a cast. The cast included Armie Hammer as Batman, DJ Cotrona as Superman, Megan Gale as Wonder Woman, Adam Brody, brilliant actor, as Barry Allen, could have been an amazing Barry Allen version of The Flash, Santiago Cabrera as Aquaman, Common as Green Lantern. Who's Common? Anyway. Common as Green Lantern John Stewart, and Hugh Keys-Byrne as Martian Manhunter. In terms of villains, Jay Bruchkill was cast as Maxwell Lord, and Teresa Palmer was set to play Talia al Ghul. Warner Bros. Saw a brand new franchise on their hands and were keen on casting young actors who could portray these roles for several years to come. Despite all the unseen hard work that went into getting this insane vision of the ground, the Justice League Mortal cast members never got the chance to grow into their roles, let alone even film a frame. That first sign of trouble came in form of the looming 2007-2008 Writers Guild of America strike. This is also that put that kibosh to the Superman Returns sequel. They changed their mind after the strike. Writers Guild of America strike. Production was swiftly moving along on the project up until November 2007, when the strike kicked off. Forcing it to go on a pause, it should be kept in mind that one of the reasons why the project was given such preference in acceleration in the summer of 2007 was because the studio was well aware that the strike would pose a hurdle. Their fault was admirable, but it didn't do the project any favours, as this was the first of many nails on a particularly dense coffin. With the strike coming to an end in February 2008, George Miller thought he was on track to bring Justice League Mortal to your local multiplex, but taxes got in the way, as they often do when someone intends on partaking in something remotely unique. Miller, a native to Australia, wanted to have the project shot at the Fox Studios Australia, as Superman Returns was, by the way. Warner Brothers was game, as the studios would have received a 40% tax rebate by the now defunct Australian Film Commission. The core cast consisted of 3 Australians in Megan Gale, Teresa Palmer and Hugh Keys-Byrne. But the Film Commission thought that wasn't enough. What should have been a smooth process turned into an entire production being uprooted to Vancouver, Canada, as filming was pushed to July of that year. And that very month, The Dark Knight hit theatres, forever changing the fate of Justice League Mortal. With its aforementioned success, Warner Brothers just didn't think it was feasible to produce a $300 million Justice League movie. Why? What you could have built on that bloody movie, you idiots. And you would have jumped Disney and the MCU. You would have beat them. You would have had a fully established universe. I'm going to talk about this in a moment. That featured a slew of characters that audiences just weren't aware of. Beyond that, Christian Bale's Batman was that generation's definitive hero, and the studio wasn't interested in confusing fans with the multiple versions of Batman Bruce Wayne. I've got a lot to say. There was also the worry that this now risky project would step on the goodwill that Nolan and Bale had bought, resulting in middling reception for their third Batman film. The Dark Knight Rises. As Christopher Nolan's vision reached unfathomable height, George Miller's plummeted. Justice League Mortal never got the chance to prove itself thanks to Warner Brothers second-guessing their choice. At the 11th hour, as well as tons of delays, it's evident that the studio was passionate about George Miller's vision, but they may have just jumped on it too quickly without considering the logistics involved and the fan reception it would have garnered. Would the film have been a success? Yes, it's George Miller. Maybe, maybe not. 2019's Joker proved that audiences were interested in unique takes on beloved DC characters. But 2017's Justice League confirmed that the studio just couldn't handle a team-up movie. But they should have done if they allowed Zack to do what he was going to do. It's not difficult to handle these things. It's about common sense and making good, sensible decisions. One can only imagine what insanity George Miller and his team would have brought to the table. It's 2008. You just finished watching The Dark Knight. You think it's the future of the superhero movies, and you have no idea what you'll never get because of it. Wow, brilliant article. Brilliant article. As we're on 46 minutes now, I'm sorry if I bored you or you've gone, but I thought that was very, very important. Right. In 2006, in 2005, we had Batman Begins. Awesome DC movie. In 2006, we had Superman Returns. Whatever you think of it, Brandon Routh was a great Superman. Spacey, a great Lex. It was a beginning. It could have worked. It wasn't a total flop. It made nearly 400 million. They could have built on that. Right? They even planned a sequel, then they cancelled it after the Writers Guild of America's strike. Right? Then you had Green Lantern. That flopped. But still, right? Still, even after it flopped, there were ways of fixing these things, right? And Justice League Mortal was the way to do it, but they didn't. They had The Dark Knight. Here's the problem. Chris Nolan came in. He wasn't interested in kind of franchises and Justice Leagues. They talk about having another Batman and it being confusing. That never had to be the case. Superman should have been Brandon Routh in George Miller's Justice League, and Batman should have been Bale. But oh no, we can't do that because Christopher Nolan didn't want to do that. He wasn't interested. Well, I'm sorry. That decision should have been taken out of his hands, right? He wasn't going to be involved in that. Christian Bale, right, and Brandon Routh and Ryan Reynolds should have all been in that film. It would have been amazing. Amazing. You would have had 3 established superheroes in a Justice League pre-MCU universe, right? Amazing. Green Lantern could have been fixed within that Justice League movie. George Miller is a genius. He could have done it. They would have beaten the MCU to the punch, and they didn't do it. They made a massive, massive mistake there, and they're still regretting it now. They looked at The Dark Knight, and they looked at Nolan, but they didn't look at anything else. They had the potential there to bring in a Justice League movie with 3 actors we've already seen in 3 separate superhero movies. Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, Green Lantern and Superman Returns. Christian Bale as Batman, Brandon Routh as Superman, and Ryan Reynolds as Green Lantern. It would have been amazing, and it would have been the start of a beautiful franchise that, as I say, could have beaten the MCU to the punch. But they missed the trick. They made many mistakes, and they're still making many mistakes. And until they stop making mistakes, they're going to fall behind to Disney. And that's a shame, everyone. I really do. I would have loved to have seen George Miller's Justice League Mortal. It sounds like an amazing film. It really does. And what a shame. What a shame again that another Justice League director has been let down by Warner Brothers and the studio itself. You can make up for this, Warner Brothers, by releasing the Snyder Cut. Comment down below. I want to know what you think about all the articles I read today if you survived it. My voice is just about dying, so I really have to go. Like, share and subscribe, and I'll be back tomorrow with even more jam-packed stuff on another DCEU Daily. See you again soon.